Yo, what's up guys? pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield moveset video guide on how to use Dragapult. This is actually one of my favorite, if not my favorite, new Pokemon added to Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I'll be doing moveset guides on all the new Pokemon, as well as guides for Pokemon Sword and Shield in general. So feel free to subscribe, and I'll be featuring the Pokemon in Wi-Fi battles soon. I hope to start this week, but it might be as late as next week. But I'll also be featuring this Pokemon later today in a Showdown live if you want to talk about it. So Dragapult is incredibly fast, base 142 speed, and has good attack and decent special attack. It also has a decent physical move pool. I want to say decent, it's not the best, but access to Dragon Dance with its high speed makes it pretty hard to revenge kill. So it's pretty hard for a Pokemon to come in after this Pokemon is set up, outspeed it, and deal with it, unless you're talking about an Imposter Ditto or something. So the first set we have is the Dragon Dance Life Orb set, and we're running Jolly with Infiltrator. Infiltrator is cool because it lets you attack Pokemon behind a sub or if Light Screen and Reflector up with a Life Orb just to boost our power. Now, the unfortunate thing about Dragapult's physical move pool is that Phantom Force, its best Ghost Stab, is a 2-turn move. Luckily with Dynamax though, if you Dragon Dance up, I mean you don't have to Dragon Dance up, but I would assume Dragon Dancing up, Phantom Force becomes just a physical one-turn ghost type attack, and it's incredibly powerful, especially when boosted by Life Orb. Dragon Darts is also really nice whether you are Dynamax or not, being 100 base power, both of the little Dreepies that fly out, which is the coolest thing, by the way. Drop a Dreepy, which is one of the coolest things. Does 50 damage each, and Sucker Punch is there because it allows you to deal with other potentially faster Dragapults. We are running Jolly Nature, but I think Adamant is fine as well, but I did want to maximize speed on this Pokemon. Sucker Punch also becoming just a dark move that doesn't depend on the opponent attacking when you Dynamax is also pretty good. Pokemon is incredibly fast, and being able to get off damage after Dragon Dancing is really nice. However, it's not the only option that we have on Dragon Dance. There's actually a mix set if you want to try that out too. And basically, I've replaced Sucker Punch on this set with Fire Blast. And Fire Blast is nice, especially when you Dynamax, because it allows you to deal with Pokemon like Corviknight, and allows you to deal with Pokemon like Ferrothorn, which will otherwise be a little bit annoying, because Corviknight can bulk up on turns that you Phantom Force, since it takes 2 turns. And Ferrothorn can eat hits as well, and Leech Seed or a Gyro Ball back. But we'll just be running Naive on this one, with just 4 special attack EVs. But that's the main reason behind Fire Blast there. Otherwise, you're just mainly going to be clicking Dragon Darts and Phantom Force itself. This Pokemon, again, having Fire Blast means that, again, that Ferrothorn can't just straight up wall it. The next set we have is a Choice Band set. And I like Choice Band on this set too because Dragon Darts is very, very powerful. And again, with the new Dynamaxing that we have, you can be Choice Locked into a move and then Dynamax, and then you can click all your moves, like while you're Dynamaxing. So that's really hard. That's really, really cool. I mean, hard, like, that's fire. But that's really cool. Sorry, everything just came out. New York came out. But the immediate boost to Sucker Punch is really nice. Again, just doing so much damage to opposing Dragapult. I believe you only need Stealth Rock damage in order to KO Dragapult with a Banded Sucker Punch. That's what it's been based on my battles. But U-Turn is there for momentum. Gets you on out of there. Dragon Darts is really spammable. And then Phantom Force is your last move. And again, Phantom Force with being a 2-turn move isn't always the best, but it is its strongest Ghost Stab. So using it on a Choice Band makes it that much more powerful. And again, we're going to be using the Infiltrator just because dual screens is actually something that's becoming very common. And Pokemon behind substitutes, we want to be able to hit them. And U-Turn's really nice too as well, especially after you Dynamax, because it gives you a way of... it gives you a nice little bug move, and it's cool for Pokemon like Grimmsnarl. If they've been weakened a little bit, you actually can do like 50%. Or if they come in like on your Dynamax, I believe it's the Ghost move that lowers defenses. I could be a little bit off about that, but I believe it's the Ghost move that lowers defenses. If they do that, you can actually hit them with the Dynamax U-Turn, and that can knock them out sometimes. So next up, we actually have, speaking of, well, not this one, but okay, we'll talk about the Choice Specs one and Choice Scarf set one. I thought our dual screen one was coming out, but here I have a Choice Spec set, which can also be ran with a Choice Scarf. Choice Specs boosting your special attack, Choice Scarf boosting your speed. The cool thing about Choice Scarf, I'll talk about Choice Scarf first, is it basically outspeeds most, if not all, of the Scarfers in the tier, and most of the Pokemon at +1. I'm talking like Pokemon like Dragon Dance Gyarados, who've already Dragon Dance and gotten that +1, and Choice Scarf Darmanitan, which is running around, and things like that. So we have the Choice Scarf set with Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Shadow Ball, and U-Turn or Thunderbolt. I like Thunderbolt a lot because, like I said, you are faster than a Dragon Dance Gyarados. So being able to outspeed it and knocking it out with Thunderbolt is very nice. And its special moves are a lot more spammable. Fire Blast is great for those steel types, whereas Shadow Ball is just incredibly spammable on just in general, just because fairy types do exist. And then Draco Meteor is your strongest dragon type of stab if you want to drop a Draco. We're running Timid, max speed, max special attack. I do want to note on every single one of these sets so far, you can definitely run between Adamant or Modest, depending on the nature. Obviously, if you're a special attacker, you'd want to run Modest or Timid. If you're a physical attacker, you want to run Adamant or Jolly. I'm just giving you the suggestion of running max speed because you can outspeed opposing Dragapult running around, but it's not always necessary. Modest, for example, if you're running a Choice Scarf set, you're still incredibly fast as well. And U-Turn's there for momentum, so it really does depend. Choice Scarf might run U-Turn, but I do think Thunderbolt is such a good slash either way, just for dealing with Gyarados. And again, Choice Specs is also here on the screen, and it's the exact same set. I would personally run Thunderbolt if I'm running this on a Sticky Web team. That way I can afford to run Modest with my Dragapult, not worrying to have... with Sticky Web up, you don't really have to worry about other Dragapult outspeeding you, since Sticky Web does lower their speed. And Modest Shadow Ball just hits so hard in the tier. It really, really, really does. And Fire Blast just nuking those steel types. And again, Thunderbolt is really nice for Gyarados, Toxapex, bulky waters in general. If you're running this on Choice Specs, I would advise don't run U-Turn. Just run Thunderbolt. Run 4 attacks because you want to get off as much damage as possible, especially if you are running, Modest Nature on this Pokemon. Next up, we do have a dual screens. I've been talking about dual screens a lot. But this time we're running Clear Body with Light Clay. I called it Life Clay, but it should say Light Clay. I'm so sorry about that. I just got off of an 8-hour stream from 3 to 11 a.m. that I've been doing over at Adrian's house. I've been doing, it's a 252-hour marathon. So I'm just going to explain it real quick. It's a 252-hour marathon, and I've been doing 3 to 11 a.m. every day, and I'm tired, obviously. So that should say Light Clay, not Life Clay. But we have Clear Body, and Clear Body, what it does is your stats are not lowered. So that's cool for opposing Sticky Web. You can still get up your dual screens. And the idea behind this is to use Dragapult in a way that abuses its speed, similar to Tapu Koko, right? In the previous generation, Tapu Koko was known mainly for, firing off attacks, Z moves, and things like that. But it was also used on offensive builds with dual screens. And that's pretty much the same thing Dragapult can do. Being a Dragon and Ghost type, not only does it have incredible speed, but being that Ghost type, it's a dual screener that can spin block as well. So if your opponent's going for Rapid Spin, you go out to Dragapult, you block their Rapid Spin. So that's really, really cool. But we do have Reflect and Light Screen, and with Light Clay, they last 8 turns. U-Turn is great for momentum, and then we have Dragon Darts as your only stab. This mon isn't necessarily meant to get off attacks or deal damage, but it can, which is why we're still running Max Attack. And while getting up a Light Screen and Reflect, you can pair this thing with something like Dragon Dance Gyarados, Swords Dance, Mimikyu, setup mons like that, Como, for instance, just anything that can set up, even a Phalanx, right? If you want to use a no retreat Phalanx and you want to have it behind Light Screen Reflect, really, really nice. The other option, of course, for the ability is Infiltrator if you care about opposing Light Screen Reflect. And that's why we're actually running Infiltrator on all the other sets that I suggested, because this set, believe it or not, is running around. This set is running around on the ladder, and it's something that I want to be able to deal with. But I have Clear Body just because Sticky Web is also running around at times. Last but not least, we're going to be taking advantage of the Curse Body ability that Dragapult also has. And I want to give a big shout out to my boy Anti for the idea behind this set. I really, really liked it. But we're running Jolly Curse Body, and if you didn't know, Curse Body basically has a chance to make it so your opponent's move is disabled, whether via contact, or if they knock you out with a contact move, if they just do damage in general. It doesn't have to be contact either. It's just a move, right? As long as the move is clicked, it has a chance to activate Curse Body. So we're running it with leftovers because we're going to be running Substitute Dragon Dance. And the cool thing about Substitute is it protects you from taking damage, yes, but Curse Body still works with Substitute. So it means that even when you're behind a sub and you're safe, there's a chance that your opponent won't be able to do their moves. And this is pretty cool on like a choice lock Pokemon. For example, Choice Scarf, Darmanitan might try and come in on you while you go for Substitute, and they might go for Icicle Crash, and you'll go for Dragon Dance while you're behind that sub because you're incredibly safe, right? You're protected behind that sub. They break your sub, but Curse Body activates, which means that they can no longer go for the Icicle Crash, and they're actually forced to switch because they can't click a move, right? They can only click Struggle, which will do some damage, but it wouldn't knock out Dragapult, obviously. But that means you can get a second Swords Dance, or excuse me, a second Dragon Dance, not Swords Dance, a second Dragon Dance and get behind a sub again. And Phantom Force with leftovers is really nice too because, like I said, it's a 2-turn move, so you recover leftovers also in whatever dimension Phantom Force takes you to, and the turn you attack it as well. And Substitute's also pretty cool for Choice Scarf Ditto because Choice Scarf Ditto is running around and Imposter basically is used to copy setup sweepers. But if you're behind a Substitute, Ditto basically doesn't notice you with Imposter. I guess that's the way it works. So it actually cannot auto copy you at all. So that's really cool. And this is, again, another opportunity to use Dragapult. Like I said, this mon is one of my favorite this generation, if not my favorite. I really do like it. And there are also other options. You know, it can run Will-O-Wisp sets. Dragon Dance sets can use U-Turn as well, just for momentum to do it later. Again, it doesn't really matter because Dynamax also makes things incredibly like versatile as well. So like on choice sets too. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you guys are actually interested in watching that 252 thing, like I said, I stream on twitch.tv/adrive. I'll be streaming on twitch.tv/pokeaim, my Twitch, after I come back on Tuesday. But I've been streaming every day from 3 to 11 a.m. twitch.tv/adrive. And yeah, we also are selling limited edition Drop a Draco merch. It's limited edition for the event, so it's pretty cool. I don't have a picture of it right here, but I encourage you to go to the stream and do exclamation mark merch. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to subscribe. I'll have more Pokemon Sword and Shield guides coming out. And later today, I will have a Pokemon Showdown live featuring Dragapult. And hopefully by next week, Wi-Fi battles with these Pokemon. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye, my friends.